entity of any kind have the right to take away any other American citizen's constitutional rights? What do you think? Does anybody have the right to take away your constitutional rights at all for any reason? Does the Constitution actually allow for that? be coming really soon, Lisa. Good morning. That day might be coming really, really soon because these gas prices and fuel prices get much higher, and a lot of these trucks are going to stop running because we just can't afford to keep going. That's right. That's right. Not one single person or entity being government or whatever, right? Could be the police department, could be the government, could be anything. Not one single person or entity has any right whatsoever to deny any American citizen of their constitutional rights. Yet we see it every day. It's commonplace. How is it possible that we allow it? Everybody in here should probably take a look online for something called the Convention of States. What happens if he's trying to peck around on top of an army ant pile? You can actually see millions of little army ants come out and take that bird down. We, the American people, are millions of little army ants, and our government is that bird. That is why they are pushing for removing rights. That is why they are pushing for red flag laws. That's why they're pushing for all of that stuff, because they know we are the army ants, and they know they are the bird, and they are scared. Nature by the comparison. I'm not. Trust me. I should have said snake. The government is a snake, right? Does it really matter what animal you pick for them? Start to stand up. You know, I actually told, I said it in one of the times that I was with the convoy. I think I was in Sheridan, Wyoming, when I got up and spoke in front of Henning, that not only is it time to put the keyboards down and stand up and get active, but our message is not being heard. The movement is not being heard. The media outlets, whether they be mainstream media or the social network news, you know, social media, we are being shadow banned. We are being blocked out. We are being blacked out. The people are rising, and nobody in the country knows it because no media is pushing it out. Right now and share it all over the place. I guarantee it won't get much play out there. Only the people that see your Facebook, very few by the way, will actually ever see it, and even at that, maybe what, 3 to 5% of them actually go and watch the video. So I suggested in that meeting that a good step forward would be to start the corporate outlets. Instead of rallying at the state capitals, every single office for any media outlet, that's your TV stations, that's your social media network offices, there should be standing outside screaming at the top of their lungs at every one of them, all at the same time. Shut them down. Surround them so tight with people protesting that their own people can't get in or out of their buildings. Carly, I'm breaking up. I'm in the middle of nowhere in Idaho. Idaho. newspapers. There should be protests outside of every one of their buildings nationwide right now, demanding that they tell the truth and they report the real news about what's going on here in the country. Every single one of them should have people standing outside their buildings. The difference is the media is not a judge. Nor is it their right to sit and judge. It is not their responsibility, nor is it their right to just paint only the picture they want you to see. They are supposed to be impartial and report the news as it is seen, not how they interpret it. Only 7 million people watch the Olympics. And that was in protest because there's no reason it should have been back in China again. If they can protest for that and be that successful, if the people can be that successful in that, why can't we get the bodies to stand outside the news stations demanding they report the real news, report the truth, demanding they really show what's going on in this country right now, instead of just painting the magic wand of the Biden administration. There's a TV station, or several, right? Like, you've got NBC, ABC, CBS. They're in almost all the big towns, rebroadcasting. They broadcast their own local news, and then they rebroadcast the main national news, and then they have their daily programming and all that. Well, what would happen? What would happen if every one of those buildings were surrounded by so many people that the people that work there and report the news really couldn't get in and out of their own building? What would happen? Do you think that would wake them up? Something more than just people not watching them anymore. So what other ideas? What more can we do to force the media to start actually putting out there to start actually covering what the people in this country are so desperate for. What is the next step? Because people, we are right on the cusp of that next step. Where do you think it should go? All over this country there are billboards everywhere that you can advertise on, and an awful lot of them are sitting empty. What about advertising the truth on them? What about like the next movement? So you've got, instead of the People's Convoy, you've got the People's Movement, or you've got 1776 Restoration Movement, or you've got any of the movements that are pushing for all the same things. See, this is disturbing. You got so many little movements all over the country that are all pushing for the same thing, yet none of them are coming together. That's the other thing. They all need to come together. But what if we started renting and advertising these movements on those billboards? That way people had to see it all the time, every time they go anywhere. Oops. Doug. Get up. There we go. There we go. Thought my wipers were stuck for a second. Stop trucking, it will. But what can we do right now to maybe help that not happen? You know, what can we do to get our point across and still keep this country moving? What can we do? Like I said, what about using the billboards that are sitting here empty all across the country? What about advertising the truth on them? That's right. And that's the same thing I've been saying on my channel since day one. Everybody needs to put their egos down. It does not matter if you like the person standing next to you on the front line. The fact is, next to you on the front line, you don't have to like them, but you have to trust them enough to be with you in the same movement. That's all. Your pettiness and your bickering and all of that, put it aside. If you don't have anything good to say, shut your mouth. The person in the same movement, they have the same end goal as you do. So why would you not want them standing for other ideas or things? Period. It's just like our military, okay? When I was in the Army, And there were an awful lot of people probably that did not like me. But when we had to go out and do what we need as a team, we should be doing all of this here in the country today. Everybody, regardless of your views, should be standing together. Does not matter what your race is, doesn't matter what your heritage is, doesn't matter what your gender is, doesn't matter what your ideologies are. If you are wanting to see the exact same change as everybody else, you should be standing in line with everybody else, regardless of whether you like them or not. Now, Carly, I've always thought that our military should be protecting our borders. I've always thought that, but instead, our commander-in-chiefs keep sending them overseas to fight other people's wars. And most of the time, those wars aren't even geared towards what they tell us. They tell us that this is being done, weapons of mass destruction, and they're torturing their people. Yeah, well, maybe a little bit they are. But the reason we end up going there, after the fact, we find out that, oh, they got the largest lithium deposits in the world. Or, oh, they've got all of the oil deposits that are fueling the world right now. Or they've got this, or they've got that mineral. It's all about big corporate money and greed. It has never been about what's really right. Having been in the military myself and been there, done that, seen that, I still feel that there's an almost every with our military has solely been driven by the almighty dollar. But that's just my take. That's my own opinion. What's happening at the borders? Well, right now the Canadian border is pretty well okay. The problem is the Mexican border. The Canadians are far more strict than we are about crossing in and out of the border. Far, far more strict. So the types of people and the types of things that are coming back and forth across the Canadian border are so far less likely to be any danger to the American people. What's coming across the Mexican border, though, is everything. If you can imagine it, whether it's good or bad, it is coming across that Mexican border in droves. In droves. You have people that would not be allowed to get on a plane and come to America because of whatever their history was, from other countries that are going into South America and coming all the way up and crossing our Mexican border because they're just being allowed to do it. You have war criminals. You have all kinds of military troops from other countries that hate America that are just flooding across that border, along with everything else. The biggest thing is I don't have anything wrong with people coming to America for a better life, as long as they do it legally and they follow all the right procedures. But those that just come in and then start taking away jobs, they start taking away our medical abilities, they start taking away all of all the welfare funding and everything else and using the system every way they can, and they come here with nefarious purposes, with their drugs and their sex trafficking and their weapon, their illegal arms businesses, and possible ideas of committing acts of terror. That is what is coming across the Mexican border, and that is why our military should have always been on the border in the first place. Because our military could easily have protected us from any of that stuff coming across. And they could easily have made sure that nobody's coming across unless they're doing it legally. I mean, do you know what it is like to be sitting there working a job that you're actually looking at getting promoted and pay raises and all of this stuff, and after so many years you're looking at maybe retirement? But what's it going to be when enough people illegally come across that border and then work that job for 10% of what you are going to work of what you've been working that job for? They only get paid 10% or maybe more, maybe less, but this is hypothetical. They come and they take that job for 10%, and now you don't have a job because your employer says, well, this guy, all these people here are going to work the same thing for a whole lot less. That's more money in my own pocket, so why not hire them and get rid of the people that are now being overpaid, in my opinion, right? What are you going to do? I'll tell you. It happens every day, and it's been happening. It's been happening. You flood the market with underpaid labor. Next thing you know, nobody's making any money. Nobody's getting ahead. The prices have all been skyrocketed on everything. So now everybody is living in poverty. Instead of being able to own a house, you now have to rent one, or you now live in a shed, or, I'm sorry, but no. If they can't come here legally, they don't belong. Period. Our Mexican border is just wide open, thanks to Biden. Wide open. We are being flooded daily by thousands and thousands of people. Where are those people going to go? What jobs are they going to take? Once they put everybody in America into poverty, once they put us all living in poverty, what's the next step? After that, what is the next step for them? What are they going to do next, right? I see modern day slavery. We're all going to be forced to work. I mean, eventually they're going to have us on rations. They're going to have us on well, your family, the people bringing money into your family have this kind of job, so they're only allowed to have this kind of item, right? So if your family needs a car, but your job level says that you can only afford this much. So say you have 5 kids, right? Say you have 5 kids, but you're only allowed enough to get a cheap little Yugo. Right? Imagine it. You have 5 or 6 kids, but the government says that you can only have a Yugo because of what type of job you work. That is where they're going. We have all kinds of laws in place that are supposed to protect us from these businesses being able to hire people that are not legal citizens. But guess what? Our government, especially the ones that are in control right now, do not care to even use those laws. They don't use them at all. Because they want us overwhelmed and overflooded. They want us all in poverty. They want us all to sit down, shut up, and work ourselves to death for their benefit. That is what they want. It's sad. It is sad. But seriously, what should we do as people? Say we get everybody in the country to stand up. What should we do if we all stand up? Yesterday. I was watching. I was sitting there on Jesse Nagy's speaking of, Jen, are you there? Go ahead and start plugging Jesse's YouTube. But I was watching through his live stream yesterday for the whole thing. Jesse is a very, very well-rounded young man. He's got good morals, good values, and he's very patriotic. He's a good, hard-working young man. Skinny as a beanpole. Grandma's dinners, but he's a good, hard-working young patriot. You're getting your nails done. Oh my gosh. Honey, I'm driving. I can't put it out there. I'll be all over the road if I start trying to open up YouTube and get his direct link. Hey, silly, that's the one that's the capital J, the underscore, and the capital N. Go ahead and put his YouTube information out here. I want everybody to go ahead and subscribe to him. Anytime he's live, go in, say hello, drop the wolf paws, drop the wolf pup paws out there, and say, you know, hello from Black Wolf. That young man, even though he's brand new to live streaming, he is going to go places with it. I can already feel it. people out of office. I know that we need to do these things, but there's nothing I can do. They've already decided who's going to get this office or that office, and they've already decided which way they're going to vote on certain issues here and there. So why should I even attempt to do anything when I already know whatever I say or the problem is way too many people in this country believe that. My own father believes that. He believes there's nothing he can do. How do we get out to the people country and not only properly educate them in what is going on, but make them very aware that they do have the power to change these things? How do we do that? Right, Steve? How about this? From now on, never vote for any politician that has had 2 terms or more. Find a new politician to vote for after your politician has hit 2 terms. How about that? Give me a minute, I'm surrounded here. Okay, he's letting me over. That's a first. An Amazon truck that is moving slower than me. They're usually blowing my doors off. After what we just witnessed in this last election cycle, how realistic is it that your vote even matters anymore? That's something I've been wrestling with. Even if I vote, does my vote even count anymore? Because if they can do it with a presidential election, who's to say they're not doing it with every other election in this country? That's true. Not voting is very expensive. Because when you don't vote, that's the same thing as voting in the opposition. Yes, Kathy. Yes. Well, I know personally I still believe that my vote counts, but I'm wrestling with the idea because of what I saw with that it doesn't matter how we vote anymore, because if they have decided who's going to win before the election ever happens, they're just going to make that person win, whether it's through fake votes or not. That is the idea that they have literally just thrown into the entire population of this country. See, the people that voted for that side, the people that voted for Biden, think that they won. They think everything was is going to get that seat that they're voting on instead of the people deciding. Because they can now get away with murder, basically. It's the same as getting away with murder. They can decide who they want in that seat, and even if the people actually vote for somebody other than that person, they can still do whatever it takes to make it look like that their candidate actually won. That's what I see coming down the pipe. That's what I learned from this last presidential election. Yes, my vote matters, but in the back of my head, thanks to this last election. So, how do we fix it? How do we fix the system? Put it back the way it should be, right? How do we do that? Last election, more people in this last election actually came out and voted for one candidate, just one. More people came out and voted for one candidate than ever before in the entirety of all voting in this country. More people voted for Trump this last election than the entirety of all elections for any candidate, for all candidates combined. So, like, you go back to Obama, or you go back to Clinton, or you go back to Bush Jr., Bush Sr., any of those. You take a look at how many people in this country stood up and voted. It doesn't matter whether they voted for the other candidate or not. The entire amount of people that voted. More people in this country stood up and voted for just one candidate this last time around than ever before in all of voting history. And yet they still figured. And they got their hands caught in a cookie jar and they're still walking around like, yeah, right, sure, we got what we wanted, screw you. Chance to watch 2,000 Mules. I got to watch like the first 20-30 minutes of it, and then the platform I was watching it on pulled it. I haven't been able to find it anywhere where I can watch it for free. my email address. blackwolfchris@protonmail.com. My mods should probably take that and be able to use it later on anytime they need to drop it. Encouraging them to hop on my channel, you know, because we really do need to have this kind of come together and discuss and put plans into action, because we all need to start standing up, every single person. Doesn't matter whether, it should not matter whether somebody is a conservative or a liberal. It shouldn't matter what their political views are, what their racial tendencies are, or their cultural or their sexual tendencies. It doesn't matter who or what they are or what they truly believe in, but if they are sitting there wanting to fight the same fight as you, if they see what is coming, if they see what is going, their constitutional rights to remain intact, if they're willing to stand on the front line with you, then you should be willing to stand on the front line with them, regardless of how you feel. Are we going to become the next Venezuela, or are we going to become the next Germany, World War II? That's what I see. I see everything in place right now. I see them putting everything in place right now that they put in place in Germany right before World War II. See, this is another thing I see wrong in this country. That little car in front of me has no plates, and it has no tag, no temp tag, no nothing. And I'm seeing that at least 100 times a day now, and I don't see any officers ever pulling them over. Same thing with vehicles that are running around with headlights completely smashed out and missing, turn signals smashed out and missing, windows smashed and gone, and body parts kind of hanging on barely, and yet nobody is pulling them over because of how dangerous that is, right? Yet they'll turn around and they'll pull over a semi-truck the second they think that a light might not be working. The light's there, but it might not be working, right? They think that. And 12,000 are military troops. How many of them are military? When you look at a massive amount of people in one group that are marching towards a country, they're all dressed. Many of them are military. How do you know? How do you know they are? How do you know they're not? You don't. And that is a problem.
Take the exit on the right to I-84 East toward Ogden.
Yeah, truckers kind of are the eyes of the world. We see it all. We see it all every day firsthand. And right now, you know, all ages. But the biggest problem is when you look at the
Continue on
adult men,
I-84.
when you look at the adult men that are flooding towards our border, how many of them are military? Not to mention, you know, it wasn't too long ago Obama brought in a whole ton of refugees, right? He brought in thousands and thousands of refugees, and not a single one, not one was female, not one was under the age of an adult. All male and all military age. What was behind that? You know, if you're going to allow refugees from a country, how come it's not extremely diverse in age and gender? How come it's all military age males? Should that not make you have a red flag in your head, stick up and say, hey, something's wrong? After he did that, oh wow, now we get more of these mass shootings. Now we get more of these terroristic things happening all over the country. But it seems weird because it's only happening during election years. They don't, the media doesn't sit there and tell you nationwide how many shootings they had in Chicago last night, which has been going on as long as Chicago has been a Chicago. They don't tell you how many shootings and drive-bys there were in LA every night. They don't tell you how much gun violence happens. They're waving the banner solely on children because they know that as long as they pull the heartstrings of the country for some tragedy that happened to children. Yes, it is a tragedy. Yes, I feel for these children. But how in the world is an 18-year-old or a 15-year-old or a 12-year-old getting their hands on $20,000 to $30,000 worth of weapons and ammunition and going on a spree and being allowed to inflict so much damage without anybody stopping them or raising an eyebrow? How is it that this last kid that went into... Why in the world, first of all, would he choose an elementary school? Why? Who in the elementary school did he have any beef with? He's 18 years old. Or 19 or whatever it was. He's an adult. He's at the age of an adult, okay? And he goes into an elementary school, for one. And for two, where did a teenager that had no job come up with over $20,000 worth of weapons and ammunition? Because that AR-15 he had, that particular one, that particular brand, that is a $7,000 to $10,000 rifle. By itself, that's $7,000 to $10,000. Where did he come up with the money with no job? And why in the world, within the first couple of minutes, there were officers there, regardless of whether they were Border Patrol or local police or sheriff. There were officers on scene within minutes, and they ran into him face to face, and they did not take him down then. They backed out and waited for waited 45 minutes for a SWAT team. I'm sorry, but even if I had been there, if I run into a situation like that, whether I have a weapon on me or not, I'm gonna take before he takes out any more people. Period. Scale house is closed. Good. No. That particular AR-15 would never even be at a Walmart anyway. You go to some high-end gun shops to find that particular AR-15. And I'm sorry, but first of all, there's no possible way he acquired them legally because he didn't have a job, and there's no way he had that kind of money. Second of all, a person like that puts up a billion red flags for a long time prior to committing that kind of act. So who around that person throughout all that time did not say a word or did not say, hey, something's wrong before this happened, right? My brain keeps telling me it was set up in advance and the whole thing was a show. That doesn't mean that the tragedy itself didn't actually happen, but that means that people were put in place to ensure that it did happen. All to further their agenda. Being said, do you think that would have actually happened at all if every teacher every bit of a staff in every school were required to take firearms training and be concealed carry permit licensed, carry at school. If every teacher were trained and required to carry, do you think any of these school shootings would even be a thing? Because my belief is it would not be. Gun-free zones get people killed. Gun-free zones are the problem. Question, Lisa, where did he get that kind of money? And the other thing is, where did he buy them? Where did he buy them? There isn't a single gun shop anywhere within several hundred miles that had him in there buying those. Video got bad there. I can't see. Hold on, let me fix this if I can. There we go. And they are forcing the narrative. Yeah, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. Most schools across the country still do not have any guards whatsoever, and they do not have metal detectors. All the schools in Chicago and LA and New York City, all of them, they have had guards, they have had metal detectors and all that, and they still have violence in their schools. The thing is, most of the schools that have guards, the guards aren't armed. They're not allowed to be because they're on school property. The only people in this country allowed to carry on school property are law enforcement. And that's a problem. The children know this. They know it. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows you can walk onto a school grounds and there isn't supposed to be a gun anywhere. So if I walk in to a school property, I know there's not a gun anywhere. Right? So what's to stop some kid that wants to get revenge of some kind from saying, hey, I know there's nothing there that's going to, I'm just going to go and do it. So let's reverse that now. You turn around and make it well known that every single teacher is carrying. Make it well known that every single guard is carrying. Make it well known that every single staff personnel, including janitors, are carrying. Next thing you know, those kids are going to be like, there are way too many guys. I wouldn't be able to do anything. I would die instantly. I don't want to die. I guarantee it would put a stop to all of this if they were all carrying. Billions to the Ukraine, yep. Why what's in other countries. Well, let's see. They're not really trying to fix what's going on in the other country. That other country is actually a money laundering pit. That money that they are sending over there is going to get circled around and washed over and over again, and then it will back into the bank accounts of the politicians that sent the money over there in the first place. Joshua, let me ask you. Does anybody in this country, any single person or entity could be the government, could be your law enforcement or anything, do anybody, is it possible for anybody to take away your constitutional rights, any of them, in any way, shape, or form? Show me somewhere, or come up with something in the Constitution that allows them to take away your rights. That's right. So why in the world are we as the people of America allowing rights? Of a crime, and in some cases the crime itself is enough to take away your rights, even though you were proven innocent. Not to mention, what if you were innocent and you got convicted? Even on the other side, what if you did it and you got convicted, right? Well, now you no longer have the right to bear arms for the rest of your life unless you go to court and get your rights back, which is going to cost you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 maybe, and a lot of years. But you're an American citizen, and those are your rights, right? So what gives them any right to take away any of your constitutional rights? What gives them that power? Lisa's got it. We sat on the we are probably right around we're a little over 100 years on the porch too long. People need to start standing up Be active, get out, be seen, be heard, be loud, and be peaceful doing it. Host a barbecue in your neighborhood and spread the word, whatever it takes. Even if you are not able to really get out and be active out in public, there are things you can do. You can get with your church groups, you can get with your own neighbors and your neighborhoods, and you can spread the word. We the people are standing up. It is time. It is time we tell our government enough is enough. It is time we send that message. It is time you stop voting for any politician that has had 2 terms or more. And it is time you start researching everything you vote on, whether it be candidates or bills, propositions, or whatever you call them in your state. Research them, study them, know what it is you are voting yes or no to, and know who it is you're voting for. And that does not matter which party they belong to. Voting down one party line is a major problem in this country. Just like myself, right? If I were to be running for some seat right now, if I were, I would be forced to run under the Republican ticket simply because of my views, simply because of what I believe in. I'm not Republican. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe solely in the Constitution. The Constitution is the word of law in this country, period. Nothing in this country should be done without being constitutionally legal. Anything that violates the Constitution should not be allowed at all, right? That's how I believe, and that's how I vote. But that gets classified as conservative or Republican. I don't believe that I'm a conservative or a Republican. I believe I'm a constitutionalist, period. Exactly. All the parties need to go, and all the lobbyists need to go. Lobbying needs to be made illegal. Super PACs need to be made illegal. Exactly. You don't have to be a scholar to have a decent dialogue. And even if you have somebody who's highly educated on one side of the table and somebody who has no education on the other side of the table, you can both learn something from each other. Not to mention, if you have a decent dialogue, you can both find some common ground somewhere. Maybe an overcast and spotty rainy day, but it's still a beautiful country to look at, is it not? Time to put a stop to all the backdoor bull. anything for the people at all. I think they only are interested in lining their own pocket. DeSantis out there in Florida. DeSantis appears to me to actually be a true patriot that is sitting in a political seat. I gotta give him props. Good job there, Carly.